All right, all right. Welcome to Reconnect My Heart podcast, the show that we talk about life's problems to make break or tear heart support. On Reconnect My Heart, we discuss God's answers to life's problems to reconnect our hearts back to the way He originally made us. I'm your host, Brother Prater. If you want to get in contact with me, or if you want to give me a call, this is, I forgot to send the message. Never mind. Um, My number, my number is 888 896 1244. It is 888 896 1244. You must dial extension 732 666 328. Excuse me, I forgot to get some water. Okay. Today is oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to hit this. Okay. Thank you for y'all prayers and support. Today is the first episode that I've had since September. Um, for those that didn't know, um, I did have a cardiac event that happened on October the 5th, a couple of weeks ago. And I want to come up here just to talk to y'all. Number one, to tell y'all thank y'all so much. I know a lot of y'all were praying. A lot of y'all were trying to get in contact and even interested in finding out what happened. I want to tell you, I appreciate y'all so much for. I'm sorry. I want to tell y'all, I appreciate y'all so much for y'all prayers, y'all support. I couldn't have done it, and my family couldn't have done it without you all. I wanted to take my time to kind of talk, kind of low, kind of slow, so that way I won't be having a lot of coughing spells. I'm still kind of going through the process of my healing, and and the coughing is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, and I'll explain. But first and foremost, Sunday, October the 5th, morning time, I was getting ready for church. I went to the restroom. I wasn't feeling well. Went to the restroom to get myself ready for church, and one thing led to another. I passed out. Passed out and didn't know I passed out. It just so happened. I was in the restroom. I was just extremely exhausted. And next thing you know, my eyes open and I'm laid out on the ground. I'm laid out on the ground, and my face was like facing where the dirty clothes hamper is. I'm like, what in the world? But I was so exhausted. But while I was so exhausted, I felt this voice say, "Get up, get up." I got up and I was so exhausted, but I had a hard time breathing. So I crawled from the bed. I unlocked the bathroom door because it was locked. I unlocked the bathroom door, crawled into my bedroom, and instead of trying to get my keys, try to go to the hospital or anything like that, I called 911. I called 911 and my mom was here. And I told her, open the front door. I called 911. I was on the ground like a dog. I was on all fours. And I was just soaking wet. I did not have on a shirt. And normally, even, yeah, that's my mother. I always have on a shirt or t-shirt or something. I never go bare chested. But this time, I was bare chested. I just had on some pants, and I was just soaking wet. And she was like, "What in the world?" And the ambulance showed up. It just down the street, and they told me to get on the gurney. And I fought tooth and nail with every energy to get myself up. to get up on that gurney. And all I can remember, they got me on the gurney and they put me inside the ambulance. And I heard them say, we got to get him to the nearest hospital. That was about 10 o'clock a.m. that I called 911. They made it here maybe about 10:05. And let's just say hypothetically, they said we got to get him to the nearest hospital about 10:15 at the most. The next thing I remember, I woke up in the hospital and the lady asked me, do you know where you're at? And I said, yes. I remember them in the ambulance saying, get him to the nearest hospital. And I knew where the nearest hospital was. So I said, I'm at Methodist Wheatland. They said, yes. They said, do you know what day it is? I said, today is Sunday. They said, no, today is Thursday. I said, today's Sunday. She said, no, today is Thursday. I said, Thursday? She said, yes, Thursday. She went to the board and pointed. Today is Thursday, October the 9th. I said, Thursday? She said, you want to see my phone? So she put out her phone, and she knew I was serious. I'm like, Thursday? I'm like, Thursday? What? And so eventually, I ended up going to sleep. That was Thursday morning, about maybe 1, 2 o'clock, or whatever it is. It was after 12 o'clock, midnight. And I remember waking up. I remember the sun coming up Thursday morning, and I woke up and I saw wires, I saw needles, my body was covered. I saw a lot of machines. But during that time, I felt so much peace. And the reason why I felt peace was because God gave me some instructions. It's like when I woke up, He told me something. And I said, okay. And there was peace. I'm going to disclose what He shared on the next episode because it's kind of, it's short, but it's impactful. And so in the midst of me enjoying the peace, all of a sudden, it's like I'm able to see the front door and I'm able to see before people walk in. And the first person I saw that I recognized, other than different doctors and stuff, was my stepmother, Emily Prater. I saw her and I said, hi. She said, hey. She said, God is a prayer answering God. And I said, what happened? And come to find out, I passed out the first time at home in the bathroom, but I was able to get myself up. As a matter of fact, my head was sore. I forgot about that. My head was sore. And I realized there was a knot. Excuse me. There was a knot, and they were questioning where that knot came from. But I was the only one that knew. When I passed out in the bathroom at home that Sunday, I hit my head. I'm assuming that I hit it on the ground because from what I saw, the knot was kind of big. But nobody knew what happened. I hit my head, but I didn't get a concussion. I wasn't knocked out. And in the midst of me hitting my head, God allowed me to wake up from that sleep to get up and call 911. And so when I asked my stepmother what happened, she said, I had a blood clot that traveled from my leg and it went into my lungs and then it entered into my heart and it stopped my heart and I went into cardiac arrest. The blood clot not only stopped my heart, it It stopped my lungs and it stopped my kidneys. In the midst of my kidneys being shut down, I was on dialysis. Now, I didn't know all of this. My family had to tell me this. Come to find out, I was on dialysis for 2 days. And also, the reason why I'm coughing is because um, when my lungs stopped, it produced mucus. And so when I went into cardiac arrest, they said I coded. They immediately had to administer CPR. And of course, what I learned later, those who receive CPR, 80% of those people don't make it. 80% don't make it. I was one of the 20 that did. So in the midst of administering CPR, there was a lot of blood that was within me. And so, blessedly, even though they administered CPR and they had to resuscitate me, they had to really work on me, blessedly, I did not receive any broken bones. And then also, when I came to, I was spitting a lot. And what I was spitting up was not just mucus. I was spitting up a lot of blood. And I spat blood from the time I became conscious, October the 9th, until maybe, let me see, November the 1st. November 1st, Saturday, November the 1st was my last time. This was after I made it home. Was my last time spitting blood from me. And so all that time, I was in the hospital. There were my family. My family, first of all, I remembered also, and I have to give a big shout out, thanks to someone that watched over me practically all my life. And that's my big brother, Jerry. I remember when the ambulance would pick me up, I heard my mama say, I'm going to call Jerry. And so Jerry later told me that he was at church working. He did security and he was the armor bearer at the church, but it just so happened he had his phone on. And when he had his phone on, he answered and my mom told him what happened. And my mom was, of course, naturally hysterical. And he immediately left. And so he was there. And then, of course, like I said, my stepmother, Emily, my second older brother, Ronnie. Also, my brother did contact my son in order for him to contact his mother. My brother did not want to tell my son directly, so he reached out to my son to get in contact with his mother. And so she got the information, and her and my son came. Now, all this time, from October the 5th to September the 9th, October the 5th to October the 9th, that night, I was out. But it was two events that I remember. It were two events I remember while I was out. And it wasn't me hallucinating or imagining. It actually happened. The first thing, it was like an event between 2 to 4 seconds, so it wasn't real long. The first event I remember, I heard a woman's voice, and she said, "You can touch him." And that voice sounded familiar, and it sounded like my son's mother. And I was able to open up my eyes just for a little bit, and I realized it was my son. And I put my thumb up, and I said, and I've never said this to my son. I said, "Hey, buddy." Normally I would say Dylan or whatever, but for the first time I call him buddy. And I explained to him afterwards why I called him buddy. But that was the first event that I remember. And then the second event, I heard sounded like my second brother, Ronnie. He was by the door and he said, "There's Dylan, there's Dylan." So out of them 4 days or 4.5 days I was out, it was two events that I remember. And those two events I remember was associated with my son Dylan. Now, the first, and I'm kind of skipping because I wanted to at least kind of tell y'all the story, and bear with me, and I hope it's making sense. But I was able to tell my son why I call him buddy when I became aware, and even yesterday I was talking to him. I called him buddy because I wanted him to know that he's my buddy in this situation, and we're gonna get through this. But the other thing God was showing me, those two events was associated with Dylan. And for those that have seen me on previous episodes, I'm a big stickler on meaning of names. And I named my son Dylan, and especially the way it's spelled. The way it's spelled, his name means faithful. And so each time on those events, the two events that I became aware in the midst of me being in a coma, faithful, 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 faithful. God is faithful. God is faithful. And I was just in awe. I was surprised. I really wasn't scared, so to speak, because I knew I was at the right place, but I was concerned, not so much for me, but I was concerned about my family. Because I began to start when like I said, the first person I saw that I recognized was my stepmother Emily. And then I would later see my brother Jerry, my brother Ronnie, and I would look in their eyes. They would look at me. I would look at them to ask, you know, they would ask me, of course, how am I doing? And at the time, I really couldn't talk. I thought I was talking loud enough. Come to find out, it was like a whisper. And then, of course, trying to talk, and I had them tubes down my throat, so my throat was like sore as crap. And I couldn't talk, and then, of course, I'm still spitting up blood. And I wanted to tell them, thank you. Um, and this was something I found out when I had when I came to, and Emily was talking to me about what had happened, and she began to tell me how hard, how focused those workers were to save my life and also to accommodate them. And she made mention that there was a particular nurse who worked her behind off to save my life. And while she's talking, all of a sudden the door opens and here comes a woman that was in plain clothes looking. Oh my God, oh my God. And Emily said, "That's the nurse right there." That nurse came up there. She came up there on her day off. She was going to get a flu shot. But while she was going to get her flu shot, she wanted to check on me. Now, before she really started talking, let me tell you what she did. Emily was telling me as she was coming in that, of course, they were praying. Emily was praying in my room. And while she was praying in the room, the nurse came in to ask Emily, can she join her and pray for her stepson? And while Emily is telling me the story, here comes the nurse on her day off. And I'm like, man, all I can do is just shed tears. Because you never know who's praying for you. You never know Even when you feel like you can't pray for yourself, God will dispatch somebody along the way to not just pray with you, but pray for you. And so that really caught my attention. And then, like I said, my brothers came in. Um, like I said, so many people came in at the time I didn't have my phone. And so my brother, my family wanted to make sure that, hey, let people know, hey, look, without going to a lot of detail, because they didn't want, you know, people bombarding. And there were some people that, and I know people, some people, not all, some people mean well. Some people would call my phone when they found out I was in the hospital. They would call my phone instead of, now I'm not talking about people who just know me. I'm talking about people that were family. Instead of calling my brothers or whatever, they would call my phone as if I was going to answer it, and I'm like, so because of um, me needing to get some rest, um, my family decided for me not to have any visitors other than the immediate family, and rightfully so, totally understood. And of course, I was in the ICU, so it was only two people that could come into the room. But later on, when I came to, I told them that there were some people I wanted to make sure to see. I did get a chance to see them, some of them, since I've been out, but there were two people that I wanted to make sure I acknowledged, and I wanted to tell them how much I appreciate and love them, and I'm gonna call them out. I'm pretty sure they wasn't expecting it, but they reached out, and these were, first of all, the man is a husband and wife duo, but the husband, I look at him as my brother. I always say we're twin brothers of a different mother. And he has a beautiful wife, and me and the love that I have for my friend, when I found out that, hey, he met somebody, and, I knew what he went through. He knew what I went through. And he said that he met somebody. I'm like, no, wait, let me check her out. And I found out she wasn't just everything that he said. She was beyond that. And she won my heart. And so the two people I wanted to acknowledge, I wanted to give thanks, is Scotty and Gina Moore. Them two, I love them dearly, and of course we still gonna see each other. And now I'm able to see you and talk to you, even in my healing process. But everything that transpired, it was God centered. It was God based. Like I said, when people begin to start connecting the dots and found out, they were like, who called 911? And they found that I called 911. Then they found out later on, I got a chance to talk to my mother, and that was another thing I was concerned about. It was two things I was, ain't gonna lie, I was fearful of. The first thing was I was concerned because the last image that my mama had of her son was me fighting for my life, gasping for breath, and I'm up here on the ground like a dog. I didn't want my mama to have that last image of me, especially she already lost one child, and it so happened it's the child that's close to me. I didn't want that for my mother. And then also, the other thing was when I was in the hospital, the devil was showing me the image of when I was laid out in the bathroom. Even though, yeah, I was in the bathroom, I was laid out in the bathroom, but I began to see myself laid out in the bathroom. And then I was like, oh my God. And I told God, you did not give me the spirit of fear. I need you to help me get that image out of my mind, because I had to keep my blood pressure low. I had to keep myself stress free so that way I can be healed. Because what I went through, and I still didn't know everything I went through. But the devil trying to put fear. Oh, when you get released, when you get home, you're gonna have to leave the bathroom door open because you're gonna be too scared to leave the bathroom door closed. You don't want to be enclosed in the bathroom. Next time you might pass out, nobody might be able to get you and all that stuff. And later on, what God told me, the next time the devil try to bring that image of you laid out in the bathroom, before I say that, let me say this. When I saw the image, I was like, man, it reminded me the image of when Prince died. It was like the devil saying, oh, y'all got some parallels. See, y'all almost died the same way and all that stuff. But going back to what God said, when the devil tried to bring that image back up, when you were laid out in the bathroom and you could have died, every time you bring that image up, don't look at it as you were down in the ground, knocked out. Look at it as, hey, you were on the ground, but you got up. You got up because I got up. And because I got up, you were able to get up. So don't be fearful of the image that you see because you are no longer there. And I'm no longer there. I have risen and so have you. And I said, Lord, thank you. And so with that, everything that transpired, I was able to see the hand of God, not only God working through my family, God working through the medical staff. And I was able to reach out to some who saved my life. And first, I want to thank God for canceling my funeral. I thank God for allowing me not just to go through it, but to go through it. I thank God that God just strategically to time it because I could have drove to church and it could have happened. I could have been, look, instead of it happening in the AM, it could have happened in the PM. It could have happened while I was asleep. But God just strategically had his hand of protection. Secondly, I thank the staff members of Methodist Wheatland in Dallas. And I know back in the day, they used to have a horrible reputation. And matter of fact, when the ambulance said we got to get him to the nearest hospital, in my mind, I was like, oh my Lord, that's what I thought. But God strategically set the timing and set the place for me to be there to get what was needed. And I am so grateful that God worked everything out, everything. And then also, I thank God for my family. Not just my family with number one, my mother. And matter of fact, my family did not allow my mom to come up until I got the tubes and stuff out when I became conscious. Because like I said, might as well say I was dead to the world. I was out for 4.5 days from, like I said, from 10:15 a.m. Sunday morning to about 1, 2 o'clock Thursday morning. And so with that, and matter of fact, and even I've had some say about my family. Thank God for my family. My mother, she was able to see her son, be able to communicate with her son. My oldest brother Jerry, worked his behind off, trying to be there and everything. My second brother Ronnie, um, also Emily, my stepmother. Like I said, she was there when I opened up my eyes. She was the first person I saw. And then my little brother and my sister-in-law, my little brother Walter, Dr. Walter Prater, he was communicating with my oldest brother Jerry, and he was telling them, the procedures and what the doctors may do, and come to find out it was confirmation and stuff. And he came on a Sunday when I became aware, and he was there with me. And then that Monday, 8 days after I was admitted, they began to give me physical therapy. And I was able to have physical therapy for the first time with my little brother. And I was able to get up now. I hadn't gotten out of bed or anything. That was the first time. The first time I was able to get out the bed, I was able to get out the bed with my little brother Walter. And they began to give me physical therapy, and so they wanted me to walk. So I ended up walking with a walker, and for the first time, I was able to walk, and I felt purposeful. I felt purposeful. Of course, I was weak. Um, I wasn't dizzy. I wasn't in pain. I felt driven. I felt driven. And then I'm gonna have to read the testimonies in a few minutes. I'm gonna have to read the comments. Um, it was so much that happened, and of course I have to say this. I don't want to forget. Thank God for my son. My son. I found out while I was in a coma. He drove the first time his mom brought him, and I want to thank her also. She not only brought our son to see me. She was there to not only help, but also her being a registered nurse. She was trying to fill in. She was trying to, hey, have y'all did this? Have y'all did that? So I appreciate it. And even with that, if I can just stop there for a minute, there was a moment while she was there when I was conscious, and they moved me to another floor. I don't want to say the exact floor, but they moved me to another floor. And this was a new nurse that I saw on this new floor. And my son mother was there. I think my son was there too. And so eventually, yeah, when they left and I spoke to the nurse and I told her, yeah, that was my son and that was my son's mother. And she said, really? I said, yes, that's my son's mother. Y'all not together? I said, no, no, we've been divorced for years. But that moment, the nurse said, wow, I wish my mom and dad would have got along like that when I was young. Maybe it would have helped me. And so what I told her, I said, in the midst of anything that you go through, God will help you not have the bitterness. Even in co-parenting, God can give you the grace to communicate with that co-parent. Sometimes you may have to bite your tongue, but administer prayer in the midst of you biting your tongue, and vice versa. Sometimes, you got to bite your tongue. Sometimes they may bite their tongue, but still don't lose the respect. And I always say, yeah, and I don't call her my ex because that's nothing to do with me. She's my son's current mother. So I always tell people in the midst of, also think about this. What if I talk bad about her on social media? What if I put her down in the mud? What if I just screwed her, made her life hell? What if I did that? When I got sick, when I was in a coma, who came to my rescue? It was her. So I always tell people, even a lesson being learned, make sure you don't burn no bridges. Now, if somebody burned bridges towards you, hey, that's on them. You just make sure that your hands are clean and right before God, and make sure you don't allow that stuff to fester into your spirit. And so, with that, I thank God for my son. He wrote me a beautiful note, and it just did my heart. And also, like I said, my son's mother. Also, my not just my biological brothers, but my bonus brothers, my step brothers, Terry, Travis, and Stephen. And then also my nephew. My nephew came and, he just came in, and also I heard I was not aware, but I heard my other nephews came, Jay and Chris and my niece, BJ. Oh, I'm like, man, I can't wait to see y'all for me to put my eyes on y'all. And so, with that, before I forget, um, get this. I had that situation with my heart. And then they began to start uh, asking me questions. Um, they began to start asking me questions. I had, questions for physical therapy, occupational therapy, and then speech. Speech also pertaining to, the brain, the talking, and also I had so many tests done. Um, but the first thing they said, what we want to do, we want to give you something because we know that you may feel discomforted. They gave me this, a pillow of a heart. And then they began to ask me about what all I do. And they found out that I do a podcast called Reconnect My Heart. Reconnect My Heart. Mm. How fitting. How fitting. And then also just being able to look at some more other things that I just begin to start seeing the hand of God in. Um, what made me think about I wanted to talk about those tests that were done with the brain. Now get this. I don't know how long my heart stopped. I don't know. I don't know how long I might have been without oxygen or whatever. I don't know. My brain might have been without oxygen. I don't know. But as they began to start talking to me and the lady spoke to me, she said, what all do you do? So I began to start talking to her and let her know what all I do. And so when she found out about the podcast, she asked me, well, how do you set up your equipment? So I began to start telling her in detail. And so when I got done, I was like, well, and that's it. She said, you do that by yourself? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, wow, well, you know what? I don't have to test you anymore pertaining to that because you're coherent and you able to do step by step by step. And I was like, well, thank you. And then fast forward, I may be kind of jumping, but I want to go also to when I went to the rehab. I went to Methodist Rehab off of Wheatland. Hands down, hands down, God allowed me to be at the right place in the right room with the right staff. Oh my gosh. They were so accommodating. Now, when I went in, when I went in, I probably was one of the youngest ones there. And some of them was looking like, why this young buck in here? And I'm looking at so many other people who are being rehabilitated with missing limbs and, stroke patients and all that. And I'm looking, I'm like, man. And some of them were asking, why is he here? And some of them begin to hear my story. And they were like, oh my gosh, and you still alive. I've had some people say, I don't look like what I've been through. And I'm so, so, so grateful. I'm so appreciative. While I'm talking, I'm gonna put some holes in my mouth. But I've had people near and far to call, to reach out, to send love, and also, now this kind of scared me because I didn't know how many people knew, and like I said at the time, I didn't have my phone. But the door was open. My door was open while I was in the hospital, and this lady is smiling coming in, and she had on some she had on some glasses, and I'm looking, I'm like, I know her. I thought that she was my aunt from Mississippi. Scared the mess out of me. I'm like, wait a minute now, she down here? Was I dead? But kind of found out it was the chaplain, and I began to have a conversation with her, get a chance to talk to her, and she ministered to me. We prayed, and I gotta say this. I didn't write anything down, but I wanted to say this. I told y'all when I woke up that Thursday morning, that not that early Thursday morning when I came to for the first time, but when I actually woke up when the sun was up, that Thursday morning I felt the peace of God. Excuse me, and he gave me some instruction. I said, okay, And then that Saturday, that Saturday night, when everybody was gone, I began to start seeing some stuff. Now, those that know me, I'm big into dreams, dream interpretation, and all that. And I also know there are times where God may communicate with me through dream, through vision, and of course, each person is different. I'm just telling you how God deals with me. So, God was showing me some things Saturday night, and I'm like, and I remember one night years ago, I was dreaming, and when I was dreaming, I was falling. And the reason why I was falling because God was showing me a lot of stuff from a distance, but then also He was showing me, and as I was getting closer to the ground, I was going to be in the middle of it. So it wasn't like some people, they can interpret however they want to, but this is the proper termination, the translation or interpretation of the dream that I had some years ago. What happened was I was in the sky and I was looking at the whole land, and there was a big field, and it was church. And I was seeing some stuff, and it was very, 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 very scary, very dangerous. And I'm up here trying to close my eyes, and God said, had my eyes open. And so He had my eyes open, and I'm falling, I'm getting right into the middle of it. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's a church that I know. And so that was years ago. Fast forward, when I was in the hospital that Saturday night, it was the exact same thing. How I began to start seeing some things, and I wanted to close my eyes. He was like, no, you got to see this. He showed me some things, and it really, really, really broke my heart. It broke my heart. And he answered a lot of questions. He showed me some stuff. He answered some questions. And so when I got up that Sunday morning, I called my mama and I asked her to sing a particular song at church. I called my stepmother. I called her first, and I asked her if she could sing a song for me. I told her, and I forgot the name of the song. And if Emily, if if you know the name of the song, I know you know the name of the song. You can call me. You can sing it. I don't care. But she told me, and I told her to sing it for me. I said, I want you to sing it as if I'm right there. And when she got out of church, she came over, and just so happened Walter and Millie uh, was at the hospital. And so Emily came over to the hospital, and she told me she sung. And she said when she sung that song, it was like God just moved. And I told her what I saw in my dream, and she knows a lot of stuff that was going on in my dreams. And she began to minister to me, and she sung. She sung to this little boy right here, lying in the bed, and all I could do was just shed tears. And and I didn't think about it to this moment, well, to today. I was like, man, 2025, I've never cried so much in my life, But she ministered to me. And so, with that being said, there are some responsibilities that I wanted to share with you all that God was sharing with me that really opened up my eyes to a lot of things. And it coincides with what I had saw that Saturday night. The first thing, I have to learn to be okay when people walk away. I'm not just talking about when, some people, people leave people alone because they have done some devilment. They have used people and stuff. No, but when you've done all you could, when you help those who couldn't help themselves, and you did the right thing for people, and instead of them doing the right thing for you, they do the wrong thing towards you. Instead of them patting you on the back, they stab you in the back. And matter of fact, you know, my stepmother and her best friend, we were in a conversation today, and we were talking. It's nothing. It's okay to get a knife stab in the back, it's okay to get stabbed in the back, but what's scary and what's painful is when you look and see who's holding the knife. It hurts. And I've dealt with some hurt, especially this year. I've dealt with some hurt. And it wasn't just towards the people who, those are sinners that don't go to church. No, no, no. These were church folks. These were church folks. And some of them were kin folks. What God told me to do, forgive. Okay. Okay. No problem. I can forgive. Also, I had to be okay with people being exposed and not trying to change them, not trying to change or allow their misbehavior to be tolerated in my heart nor contaminate my peace. I had to be okay when people reveal who they are, be okay with giving them the gift of goodbye. That doesn't mean that you don't love them, but you gotta protect your peace. You gotta protect your health. You gotta protect your trust. You gotta protect your heart. I said, Lord, thank you. I see Emily watching. Thank you. Thank you. I had to learn. I had to learn that when you do all you can for people and they still don't appreciate you, they still talk bad about you, don't look at it as you're doing it for them. Look at it as you're doing it for God. The main thing that I want to share with y'all in my journey that God was telling me, and I don't mind sharing with y'all because I hope what I went through helped bless somebody else. When you're doing what God tells you to do, that's all you can do. You're not responsible for other people's reaction. You're not responsible for even people to like you or love you or even respect you as long as you're obedient to God. There was a saying that hit me, and I wrote it down. I got it somewhere over there. First thing, sometimes when it comes down to the people that we know, sometimes when they reveal themselves, when they reveal who they are, sometimes you got to accept that's who they are. You got to accept it. You may shed a tear, you may be disappointed, but no matter what, you still got to trust God. It was two sins I had wrote down. I had it over there. But this first thing that God hit me with. Sometimes you have to stop looking. Sometimes you have to stop looking for the good in folks and start looking at the real in folks. You trying so bad to look for that good while they're throwing daggers at you, while you wasting your time, and you even being in an assignment that God did not authorize you to be in. Make sure you always be prayerful all the time because the Bible tells us the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. And sometimes we out of order because we're trying to go in an assignment or in the area that God didn't authorize us to. Also, in order for us to fulfill the purpose and plan God has for us to walk in our purpose, sometimes our purpose is not, our purpose would not cause us to be popular. What's going to lead us to the purpose and plan God has for us is not popularity, it's obedience. So don't expect for people to like you because you do good for them or, you have a good heart and all this stuff. I know a lot of people in the church have good heart and they get walked over. And what God was telling me in the midst of all that, June, you got to start speaking up. And when you speak up, hey, put it out there and that's it. Don't hold no grudge. I mean, I realize when people have done things to me, and this is only a few people that really has affected me, and a lot of it happened this year in the church. But what I learned, now now you can grow. But also even with and it coincided with the peace that God gave me when I first woke up. What God told me was make sure, make sure that I don't allow what's in them to go into me, because oftentimes what happens, hurt people hurt others. And the devil tries so badly to allow people to get hurt so that way it can contaminate their ministry, it can contaminate their walk, it can contaminate their verbiage, their peace, their mind. And right now, God wants a lot of people free. There may be somebody that's watching in here right now. There may be some people that might have been hurt by church folks. Now, that does not give you permission to stop going to church, but you're not going for them, you're going for Him. What we have to do, we have to seek God and stop seeking people. And there are some people, yeah, there are some people that we may respect and everything, but I always tell people, and I don't care if they kinfolks or not, you start looking at the integrity of a person. We need to start fasting and praying and ask God to give us the spirit of discernment. So that way we don't get disappointed when people reveal who they really are or how they really are. And so with that, my goal, my desire, what happened before October the 5th, yes, I did a lot of things. I tried to help people. I tried to do, and I don't do it, to be notarized. A lot of stuff I like to do it behind closed doors. I'm not the type of person, to be singing. So that's just me, you know. But if the devil thought I was doing something before October the 5th, watch now. When I come back, I'm going to preach like never before. I'm going to teach like never before. I'm going to minister like never before. But also, I want to make sure, if I could be an example, I don't care about about verbiage, because anybody can say things, anybody can quote a scripture. But we live in a day and time where people need to see the scripture administered in their life. People need to see the example of the love of God. And that's what's missing in the body of Christ, love. I don't care how a person may articulate, speak Hebrew and Greek, but if you lack love, it means nothing. We have lost reverence for God and respect for God's people. And so, yes, for those who have hurt me, and matter of fact, there was somebody who even made fun when I was sick, fighting for my life. There was somebody that I really respected that spoke ill and even had the audacity to tell my mama. It took everything in me, but God reminded me, I showed you what was going to happen, and He sure did. God showed me 24 hours before it happened. He showed me that that person was going to say those exact words. But you know what happened? 48 hours after they said that, something happened to their loved one. And then a couple of days after that, something else happened to somebody else that they love. So I always tell people, first and foremost, make sure, first of all, this is not a playing time. We got to make sure to be right before God. Yes, I thank God for being alive. I thank God I am still here. But if anything would have happened where I would have died, hey, look here, I wouldn't worry. My salvation is secured. I know where my heavenly home is. But the question is, if it had happened to you and you didn't make it, would you know where you would be going? That's one of the things I was telling some of my family members and those who I spoke with. I thank God for being here. But if I didn't make it, I know where I was going. But also, I do have to say this because this really caught my heart. And I'm gonna say this: when we went into rehab, when I went into the rehab, they asked me what my goal was, and I told them my goal was to get better, get as if nothing happened. And at the time, I only walked one time. When I went into the rehab, I went in assisted in a walker, in a wheelchair. Now, I got released from the hospital, went straight to the rehab. So I was using the wheelchair. And when they asked me what my goal was, I told them my desire. When my son come and see me, I want to be strong enough I can get out that wheelchair to stand up and give him a hug. That's what I wanted. And a couple of days before I got released from the rehab, my son Dylan came. And I every time I would go into the rehab, I would exercise, I would do what everything I was supposed to do. I was trying to do everything, looking forward to the time I see him, for me to stand up, to give him a hug, give him a kiss on the forehead. And so when he came to see me, the door opened, and I was sitting in my wheelchair. And when he opened up the door, I waited for him to get close enough. I said, hold on a minute. I locked the brakes on my wheelchair, and I stood up. He was like, I said, yeah, come here. And I gave him a hug. That meant more to me than anything, because that's what I wanted to do. That's what Daddy wanted to do for him. To some people, it may sound small, but God granted me my heart desire. And so with that, I want to encourage you. I appreciate y'all even just for listening. I appreciate y'all, taking that time to come on. But I want y'all to know this is the time for us to be about our Father business. There are some changes that I have made. Yeah, there are some people, I already know how they are when they want to come in, gossip, they want to come in, and I already know they two-faced. I don't deal with that. I don't have time for that. I don't got to be busy. God didn't allow me to be alive for me to deal with the people that's taking my peace, taking my joy. When I was going through, there are some people, hey, he can speak up for himself. Hey, he don't need no help. And they would tell me. And so with that, thank you for what you have contributed to my life. But you know what? Just remember, what goes around comes around. You got to remember, there's reaping time. Remember, you reap what you sow. Remember, even if you do it to the least, when you do it to the least, you got to look here. I'm not talking to people who ain't saved. I'm talking to the church people. It's time for us to get right. There are people that are leaving here. There are people that need help. Matter of fact, I saw the little girl that's supposed to be a Beyonce, big Beyonce fan. Little girl, 25 years old. And they said that she committed suicide. People need help. And what are some of the church folk doing? Talking about people in the church, lying on people. We don't have time for that mess. Like I said, if y'all want to know, if y'all want to see a testimony, look at me. Not just what I went through from October the 5th through me getting released in October 29th. But guess what? I've been on the air for however long I've been, and I haven't coughed yet. But I want to let y'all know God is real. And I want to thank each and every one of y'all that reached out to me, reached out to my family, those that came in love. I ain't talking about those who are coming in gossip. I ain't talking about those who hell raisers. I ain't talking about them. Like I said, it's okay to love people from afar. I'm learning that now. Accepting a person how they are. Yep. But also one of the main things God was showing me, put it out there, don't hold nothing back. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna be cussing out somebody or whatever. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. Real believers of Jesus Christ, we don't do that. We don't do that. But what we will do, we'll let them know, hey, look here, I'm not the one to be used. You don't want nobody to be doing you like that, and you're not gonna do me that way. Yeah. So yeah, I learned a lot. But I also saw the love of God, not just from him, but from y'all. I was reading some of the comments. Some of the time I was unable to respond because sometimes at the time I had to kind of process what I was reading, and then the nurses would come. Like I said, I had nurses and doctors come in, whew, so often, so often. Matter of fact, you know, I didn't take any pictures of my arms or whatever. I think I was bruised up everywhere. But I want y'all to know that my healing is present. Um, there's a lot more in the future, and I'm not just talking about the future like the next couple of months. To my next couple of days, I'm gonna be sharing with y'all some things. There's gonna be some great things ahead. Some great things ahead. I look forward to sharing it with y'all. But I wanted to just take the time to tell y'all how much I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all being on this journey with me. I appreciate y'all praying for me, praying for my family. It was well needed. And in the midst of me being in the hospital, I lost a dear friend of mine I want to acknowledge. I want to speak to the family of Bobby Horn. My condolences to y'all. And, you know, I was like, man, we lost him. Um, Actually, if I just say this, at the time I was going to go see him, I had to go over here. And then it prevented me from going to see him. And I'm like, crap. And then the next day, that's what everything happened with me. And so he ended up passing away while I was in the hospital. And then my Uncle Jack, Andrew Logan. Everybody know him as Uncle Jack. The beautiful thing about it, while I was in the hospital, they were going to do a CAT X-ray, I believe, X-ray on my head. I was letting them know about my head. And so when I was in the ICU, it's only two people that could be in, my mama and my brother, Jerry, on the right side. So they sent me to get a CAT X-ray, and then I came back, and I had my eyes closed. And so I opened up my eyes, and I saw my mama, but I looked, I didn't see Jerry. I looked, and it was my Uncle Jack. I said, Uncle Jack, hey. He came to saw me. Him and my cousin, his son Steve, they saw me, and little did I know that he was going to be gone a couple of days later. But my brother Jerry allowed them to come to see me. And like I said, there were some people, I know there were some people, well, I want to come up there and pray for him. Yeah, that's fine and dandy, but, you know, prayer can work at the house. You know, you don't need to have an Ethernet cable for your prayer. You know, prayer is Wi-Fi. Look here, my prayers in Dallas, Texas can reach you right where you at. I don't care if you're in the United States, outside of the United States. Prayer was the first wireless communication that ever existed. And so, and I know some people meant well, but I couldn't see a lot of people. Plus, I just didn't want anybody to come in and try to have a conversation with me because I really was not in the conversation mood. Not because being antisocial, I was, I was not well. I needed peace. I needed people around that was gonna pray, and then also somebody that was not, burdensome. And so, like I said, there was some people that, and they were my friend. Like I said, my friend Gina and Scotty. Hey, look here, I don't care what anything pertaining to me. I already told my family anything pertaining to me. They got the right hand fellowship. You know, Gina, Scotty, Derek. You know, hey, y'all, come on. But and also I do have to say this. I do have to say this before I forget. Before I close, I want to thank my family at the Dallas County Sheriff Department. My family at the Dallas County Sheriff Department. Matter of fact, when I woke up that Thursday morning and I saw Emily, the first thing I told her, I said I couldn't think of Dylan's number. I couldn't think my mind. Like I said, my mind was just foggy. But I told her, call Sergeant Peel. Call my sergeant. Call my sergeant. I've been off work since September the 4th. Call my Sergeant Peel. Let him know what happened. And so my family close to me, not just my biological family, but my work family. I love my job. I love my career. I love it. I love it. And you know, you know, they just they're more than my coworkers. You know, my supervisor. I love them dearly. Miss Diane, Sergeant Ramirez, Sergeant Palmer. I love them. Um, Miss Reynolds. And so I thank my sheriff department family, you know, Sheriff Brown, all of them. I love them. I love sometimes just coming there to the job and just be in the atmosphere where, in the midst of chaos, you're having peace. And even if you don't have peace in the atmosphere, make sure you got enough God in you to bring the peace. You know. And so with that, I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I like I said, I appreciate y'all reading the comments. Pastor Cheney, thank you for your prayers, your words. You know, I'm so honored. My my classmate, my friend, Pastor McKnight, man, appreciate you. Monica, appreciate y'all. God is awesome. Yes, yes. Um, yes, I'm definitely a walking testimony. I'm definitely. There's no doubt about it. And I don't take that for granted. But like I say, if God could do it for me, he could do it for any one of us. He could do it for any one of us. Make sure we live a life where make sure we live a life where God wanna, deliver us, heal us, because we're valuable to his kingdom to do mighty work. We don't want to be, okay, God, look, can you grade best on the curve? Can you let me slide on some things? Because I know look, let's be busy. And so, yeah, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. Greg Hill, cousin Larry. So many of them. Yeah, that's it. By the grace of God, I come a long way. Oh my gosh. Whew. That song messed me up. That song messed me up. By the grace of God, we've come a long way. Um, yes. So it's so many things God have done. God have done great things. And so with that, what I'm gonna do, I may not be live next week, and I apologize for being late. I didn't realize that I had to update some things, and then I had problems. And of course, I hadn't plugged up any of this in almost 2 months. But I remembered and had to find this and this and that, and I'm like, man. But thank God that we got on, and I just appreciate each and every one of y'all for helping me be where I'm at. Not just what happened October the 5th, but even beforehand. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the love and the care y'all have shown me. Um, I tell people I'm honored. I'm just a little kid. I'm just a little kid, just love the Lord, trying to serve God and serve God's people. And all I'm gonna say is, if y'all thought, if y'all thought I was busy before doing the work of the Lord, now there will be more. There will be more time. There will be a lot of things coming, and I look forward to it. Look forward to it. So I thank you. And also, before I forget, I got to give a special shout out. I don't want to forget. A special shout out to my church family, the House of Deliverance. I love y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. I will see y'all. I will see y'all very, very soon. I have some doctor's appointments coming up, and my physical therapist, my occupational therapist, and my nurses are coming. Um, uh, I do have a wound. I have a wound on my thigh. They did some procedure. Whatever procedure it is, like they put it um, in your groin to reach your heart or something. It's it was a lot that happened with me. But like I said, some people, unless they hear my story, they wouldn't believe it. Matter of fact, And when the nurse came by a couple of days ago, I opened the door and she looked. She was like, I'm here for Brother Prater. I said, oh, I'm he. She said, okay. And so she saw me limping, and then she found out my story. She said, oh, she said, at first I was looking for like your father or something. She said, you like the picture of health. But when she found out my story, she said, oh my God, God is real. And that's what I want people to see. That's what I want the response of people when they see me. God is real. When you know my story, you will understand his glory. When you hear my story, you will know why I preach, I pray, I praise the way I do. Many people, even those that are jealous, yeah, even those that are jealous, they want the benefits of everything I got, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to receive. Look here, and some that were jealous of me. If you that jealous, then you know what? If everything that I went through allow me to have what I have and going through it the right way, then you pray and you ask God to let you go through the same thing I went through. You would not want to be in my shoes. So I always tell people, seek God for yourself. Seek God for your purpose. Look here, it's enough room for all of us. No need for us to be jealous. And plus, we don't have time to be looking at somebody else, what's going on in somebody else's back door, what's going on in somebody else's backyard, what's going on in somebody else's life. I don't have time for that. So for those, once again, and I'm hoping this is my last time saying it, for those that have done me wrong, lied on me, lied to me, talked about me, ridiculed, made fun, I forgive you. But also, if I did anything against you, if I did anything knowingly or unknowingly, I apologize. Forgive me. Knowingly or unknowingly, I apologize. Now, let's be about our Father's business. So I thank each and every one of y'all. I love y'all dearly, and I will get a chance to see y'all soon. Very soon. Very soon. Very soon. With more updates, with more information, and let's just say the best is yet to come. And we thank God, we give God the glory for everything, for the marvelous work He has done, He is doing, and what He will do. I thank y'all for everything. So, y'all have a great night. Sleep well, and know that there's nothing too hard for God. Put Him first in every area of your life. And just know, just like what God did for me, He can do it for you. And once again, I thank y'all so much for y'all thoughts, y'all prayers. I wanted to make sure that if there was anything else I wanted to say, because it was so much that happened. So much that happened in my journey. And so hey, I just thank God. I thank God. Thank God. Now I did lose a little weight. Now I didn't want to lose. I was planning on losing some weight, but I didn't know I was going to lose the way I did. But anyway, I just thank God for everything. Thank God I'm here. I'm here to be able to see y'all, to serve Him, and to serve y'all. So I appreciate you. I love y'all dearly, and to be continued. Take care. Thank you for listening to Rick and Mark podcast. God bless you. Good night.